is the November 9th, 2022 Little Town of Littleton Board of Health meeting at 7 p.m. We'll get started with our public hearing on the ID decision support tool. I'm hoping Matt Wason has some information to share.
Hello. So the kind of most prominent news recently is about the variant spread. So we've kind of spent much of the last couple of years with pretty much one dominant variant and one kind of growing that eventually supersedes it. And we're kind of in a far more interesting situation now where there are 5 different variants that are accounting for 10% or more of the cases in the greater New England area. BA.5 has been the major variant for quite some time. It is now dropped to just over 40% of our cases in this area. And we have BQ1, BA.4.6, BF7, BQ1.1. And I think those are the 5 that are kind of the other players. As always, each variant brings new questions as to how effective our vaccinations will be, how effective our treatments will be. And the primary concern now are the 1 and 1.1, the BQ1 and 1.1, simply because they look to be even more contagious than prior variants, as well as they're starting to have some evasion for some of our antibody treatment methods. Those aren't all of our treatments for COVID, but there is concern that as winter comes, those 2 variants are going to grow very quickly and potentially could put more people in the hospital with more severe illness. There's also information in the news that you might have seen about another variant that's overseas still, that's I think XBB, that has some other concerns with it. They've only had a handful of cases in the US, mostly in New York. No evidence yet that that variant has come to Massachusetts. But with winter coming and other variants at high transmissibility rates, it just raises the question of how vigilant can we be as these variants approach us. Our other numbers all kind of remain in the yellow category. The ICU bed access is down to 80%, which is nice to see. Our CDC community level is still yellow. And then kind of the other updated number of the wastewater numbers out of the Boston area are hovering right around the 500. So they've been that way kind of for the last week and a half or so, which is good. Again, we'll keep an eye on that because we're not scientifically sure what number is a bad number there. The fact that it's 500 means that they're still recording data about COVID information in the wastewater. But if we start to see that go up again, that's what will draw our attention to it. Right now, it's just kind of hovering around those numbers, so we'll keep a close eye on that. Any questions?
And Kate?
No.
Kevin Davis?
No questions, just a couple of comments. It's really interesting to see how the BQ1 and BQ11 are going to start spreading around a little bit faster. The other concern we should have as a community is that, like you said, the effective treatments are basically dwindling down to nothingness. So all of those remdesivir and things like that may or may not be as effective. They're still trying to figure that out, I think, is the correct statement. And then I think the other correct statement I think you said is the vaccinations were definitely, we're waiting for the data to come out, but it's looking like it's the vaccinations may still prevent severe COVID and hospitalization. So yay.
Gino, any comments?
You asked me?
Yes, please.
It looks like it's low. The question is, if somebody gets sick on just a regular cold, if the parents see the kids, they have a cold, they should keep them home. That's all. Don't let them go to school. And also, if there's any, I hope we won't repeat the pandemic that we had a couple of years ago. They have to be, taking it easy and see what happens.
Yeah, I think we all have the tools and the knowledge of the strategies to be used to help mitigate and stop the spread, and hopefully folks are doing that.
So far, looks okay.
Well, it's 7:05. We have some time until our 7:10. We have 2 at 7:10. But we could take a look at the meeting minutes that were sent over by Brenda. I don't know if if you guys had a chance to read, it was May 25th, way back when. Anyone had a chance to run through those with any questions, comments, corrections, revisions? Dan Kane?
Unfortunately, we only got them, 2:00 this afternoon, but the May 25th minutes, a couple things. One, it lists me as clerk. I believe that was Kevin's first meeting as clerk. That could simply be a comma location issue, but we don't have Nick's full name for that first public hearing. Just
Right.
Nick P. GPR. We should probably spell those things out since this is the official record of the meeting.
Mhm. That makes sense. Kevin
I
Davis?
think that was.
I had similar comments. I saw some formatting, just general things like that. But I would like to see those couple of things that Dan brought up fixed before we bring it to a vote, or at least say we need to, make those changes if we're voting on it.
Matt Wason?
I don't know if you're talking about both of them. I wasn't at the 25th May, but same kind of comments on the October 12th is, I think, one of the public hearings just talks about a company making a request and not having an individual on that record.
On,
The public hearing on 40 Shaker Lane,
right, yeah.
it says
was-
innovative septic design would like to.
Yeah, it was Evan, Brendan, I hope you're listening. It was Evan Carloni. He did back-to-back presentations that night. The first was for 101 Goldsmith. If we could just have his name added to the 40 Shaker Lane public hearing as well.
And actually, yeah, it was listed on the prior hearing. I think we should just repeat it so that
Yeah.
there's no confusion.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So what we are able to do is take Dan Kane's comments and Matt Wason's comments and amend the minutes as noted. And we can, Dan Kane, go ahead.
Sorry, one other thing for the October 12th meeting. Kevin Davis is not listed as either present or absent. I believe he was absent looking at the votes for that one, but he's
think
not
so,
listed
too.
either way. And I'm listed as clerk again.
But along those lines, Dan, you're listed as clerk on the Board of Health webpage, so that needs to be updated. That could be the source as well.
Yeah,
The agenda keeps coming through with me as clerk as well. So
yeah. I apologize. That's noted. I did ask them to change it on the website. I don't have the authority to do that, but the town clerk does. So I will reach out to them and ask them to change it again on the website, and I will make sure that I make it correct on the agenda and the meeting minutes.
So we could hear a motion to approve the minutes as amended. If there's the appetite for that.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
As amended, the minutes as amended.
Right.
There's a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
a second.
Formally, do we need to split the two for approval of the two dates?
We can make it to approve both dates. Gino, do you want to just clarify? Motion to approve both.
So, but yeah, to approve both.
Both the May 25th and the October 12th meeting minutes from the Littleton Board of Health as amended.
As
Yeah,
amended.
my only point being is I can't approve the minutes from the meeting I didn't attend. That's all.
Okay, so we'll do two separate votes. So May 25th.
So we do a separate,
Yeah, do a separate, do.
All right. make a motion to approve as amended. First one,
May 25th.
May 27th.
I'll second the motion to approve as amended the May 25th, 2022 minutes.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes yes.
and, Gino Fredoloni,
Yes, sir.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
and Matt Wason,
Matt Wason abstain.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Gino, you have another motion?
Well, okay. What the second motion will be the same. What month is it?
October 12th.
Okay, make a motion for October 2012. As I amended. October 12, right?
October 12th, yes.
Yeah.
2020.
Anybody says a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis abstained.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Gino Fredoloni,
Jennifer, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. All right, we can move on to our 710. They're both 710. We'll just, we'll talk about, where's my packet? Sorry. 710, we'll have a public hearing on 12 Field Lane, a review of materials for deed restrictions. And we have some attendees. Dan Kemba, going to promote you. Dan, just please state your name and address.
Yeah, see me?
Hi, Dan.
Awesome. Dan Kamba, 12 Field Lane.
And Nicole's got her hand raised. We will promote Nicole. Nicole, just please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry, hi, this is Nicole Kamba from 12 Field Lane in Littleton.
So I know we have some background. If you could just please just go over once more exactly what we're hearing tonight.
So we're looking to get our basement finished to be a playroom and gym. We talked about it last meeting with you guys, the concern of the shared septic and adding a room could indicate more people came up. We talked about that, and then I believe Kevin, you said you wouldn't feel comfortable approving the deed restriction unless the trustees approved it. And then it came up that the fields were coming out as trustees and neighbors were coming in, so that if we could get neighbor approval throughout, or since that meeting, we've gotten, I think, 32 neighbors approved it and the fields. So we just wanted to come full circle on this and try to close the loop if we could. I believe too, I don't know if, I think Jim, I don't know if Jim's on the phone. I had sent him the backup. I think he said he was forwarding it to you too. I tried to put it in a document so you didn't get 32 emails.
Yeah, we have a nice document with all of the comments from your kind neighbors. And,
A few more came in after if you need those.
okay. We also have the plan for the finished basement as well as the as-built for the first and second level of the home. We talked about room count last time. And yeah, it was my opinion that I wasn't comfortable and that, you know, all the neighbors of the association, you know, collectively share the responsibility of this septic system. And, you know, I don't necessarily want to be held liable for making a decision that puts you guys over the room count and puts a strain on your septic system. You know, I've had discussions with Jim Gariffi on it. You know, his comment was, if maybe the deed restriction was prevalent on the face of the deed, not buried in the HOA docs, that might be a greater protection for future owners for the continued, function of your septic system. I tend to agree. I think that if prevalent on the face of the deed, instead of buried in HOA docs that, don't come up till the last minute of a closing, it might give a greater sense of protection. I still think the room count's too high. I do think there are other people, other neighbors in the association that have already finished their basements. I don't know how the house design got approved, having as many rooms as it did, given that it's only got 330 gallons of flow per day allowed. But with that said, we're here to help people, and we want to do the right thing. We just don't want to create a problem. I'll open it up to member comments. Start with Kevin Davis.
Good evening. So it looks like the plan is pretty much the same. One of the questions we had the last time was the garage entrance. And I'm assuming the garage entrance is not on the same level as, or the garage as it's here, it's not on the same level as the basement. It's actually above. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And yeah, I definitely support putting on a deed restriction on the face of the deed that basically says, we have to limit it to this. There's no extra bedrooms, blah, 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 all that other kind of good stuff. Yeah, we have to definitely put that deed restriction on. And there's no wall between the quote playroom and fitness room. Is that correct downstairs?
Correct.
The only wall that you're putting up is the mechanical wall.
Yes, correct. They're gonna cover the pole, but it's gonna be an open space.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, with the deed restriction there in place and the wording on that, I'm okay with what's here. Seeing how all the neighbors, and it's been transitioned over from, you're now in charge of the homeowners association and the fields are no longer?
Currently, the fields still are, which is why we got both. And
Got it.
I think December or end of December, it'll transition.
Okay. Okay. And Kevin, did we hear back from any of the building department or anything like that on other houses that the developer already finished the basements on the houses? Because that was a question we had.
I know that I haven't spoken to the building commissioner specifically on this. I don't know. I think that was a time of transition between building inspectors as well in town. So, that I think that some things fell through the cracks on this one. I honestly do.
Okay.
But
Yep. Okay. I'm done. I'm good.
Gino Fratelloni, any comments, questions?
No question.
Dan Kane?
Was there a formal letter from the Fields as currently the homeowners association? Since the homeowners association can't obviously vote on this, the emails are helpful, but if they are still in charge of the homeowners association, was there a formal letter from them setting their approval or not approval, agreement or anything? I'm just looking through the email lines and I don't see anything specifically, but I could have missed it.
There was a separate one from the fields. I just I kept them separate.
Okay, did you submit it? I just didn't see it.
Yeah, I had sent it to Jim as well. I can forward that along to you guys.
Just that extra layer of protection if they are representing the homeowners association at the moment, that if there is something in the future, then the homeowners association, even if it is governed by them at the moment, has acknowledged the potential risk to the collective with this process and have agreed to it as a group, even if it's just them.
I have it up now. I can share the screen
Sure.
just so you can see it. Let me know if you see it.
Yep, there it is.
That's theirs on top. I had asked for the actual updated plan. My request or my initial emails on the bottom of this, but this this whole thing was forwarded to Jim on Monday last week sometime.
Mhm.
I took a screen cap of it. I'll send it over to Kevin Baker right now.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks. Matt Wason.
Actually, on that note, you were talking about how the floor plan does not reflect the actual construction of the house. Is the floor plan that we have accurate to the construction of the house, or is there something that we're missing there?
I think the floor plan was submitted prior to the build, and then there were certain things removed, most notably walls on the first floor, which is where the confusion initially came in on our end on the room count. Because like where the living room and dining room are and the kitchen, there's really no walls between those three rooms.
Yeah, and some of the other houses that were built there do have little like half walls, like 2 feet jutting out between the dining room and the living room, which probably helped in the case that they're separate rooms. This one does not have them.
Correct. And I think as far as I remember, I think what you just said is shown on our floor plan with the little walls. They're just not actually, they weren't built. So
Yeah.
So, my concern is that, as we talked about last time, this house is already above the approved room count for the system that is installed. In my opinion, I haven't looked, but in my opinion, this house should already have a deed restriction on it. Do we know if it does or does not?
to my knowledge, it does not. There was, I think there was a disclaimer on when we bought it that it's a legal 3-bedroom being used as a 4-bedroom by the old people. So to me, that was the only heads up.
Yeah, the deed for the house says that the house is subject to the declaration of trust. And then the declaration of trust is what says they're restricted to 3-bedroom homes.
So I think, my fellow board members, my concern is we pretty much regularly approve +1 room for finishing spaces. And in my experience, not very long, we regularly do not approve +2s. And I'm just really worried about a precedent change in that, understanding that this is a 3-bedroom house and it's over the count, the way we define the count, whether we like the rules or not. Those are the rules that we've followed, and those are the rules that we've tried to be consistent in following. While I appreciate that all the neighbors say, go ahead, again, it comes back to the precedent. We've turned down other people before who've asked to finish spaces that would put them over the room count with or without a deed restriction. And so I'm not wild about trying to make a shift for this development.
Okay, thank you. My only comment is that, this rule is in place to protect the public health and protect homeowners from having a septic system failure in the future. While it's great that we're having this open and transparent conversation with you guys, unfortunately, this conversation needs to be shared with all the people in your HOA. And I'm happy that they are open to you guys finishing your basement, and it seems like you all have a nice relationship. But moving forward, I think each one of the homes in this development needs to have that 3-bedroom deed restriction placed on the face of its deed in order to make this work for everybody. And I don't know if that's something we can actually do. Dan Kane would probably know the answer to that better than I or Jim. But do you see where I'm getting at? Where it's, like you said, the people before you were using it as a 4-bedroom, probably because there was nothing about a deed restriction on there. Their attorneys didn't look into it in the HOA docs.
As far as I know, with the way they wrote that, the way I saw it and the way it was explained to me was to get people to buy it thinking it could be used as a 4-bedroom, which was sneaky in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
From what I know of the family, it was used as a 3-bedroom also. But I mean, I don't know them personally. I've spoken to neighbors,
Yeah.
so.
And we don't really know what people do. So that would be my thought, is to, if the board had the appetite to move forward and make a motion that it include all of the residences and all of the deeds in relation to Cooper Farm, have a 3-bedroom for the houses that are allotted 330 gallons per day of flow, get a 3-bedroom deed restriction placed on the cover of their deed. And for the homes that are the 55 and over, 2 bedrooms, get a deed restriction placed on those, that they are in fact only to be used as 2-bedroom homes. So we can, I don't know if anyone on the board has an appetite to make a motion.
How big the septic system is it?
It's a shared septic system, Gino.
Pardon me?
It's a shared septic system, and each house is allotted a certain amount of flow into the shared septic system per day.
Oh, it's a share. I'm sorry.
There's
It's a share.
21 3-bedrooms and 22 bedrooms.
There's also someone in the audience, T. Galvin. I don't know if they have an interest in this or an interest in something else.
I hate with those share systems.
They can raise their hand if they
Yeah. Okay. So
in the essence of time, I'll make a motion to approve the finishing of this basement for this instance, but all the homes related to this HOA, the 21 3-bedrooms and the 22 bedroom homes need to have respective deed restrictions placed on the face of their deeds. And I'm sorry if that's opening up a can of worms, but that's like the best I can do without like setting a precedent that we do not want to set.
Right. You're right. I didn't realize.
Do we have the scope of authority to put that on all the deeds in this without having it before us as an issue? Since
That's what
we're
I
only
was
looking
hoping
at
you'd
one
have the
property.
answer to.
I only play a lawyer on TV. We probably would want to go through town council, because I certainly, with having a requester before us with an issue, then that can be part of that, our process and authority. I'm not sure if we can proactively place those on existing properties. My gut
I mean,
would say
it's already on.
probably not
It's already
don't
on the
know.
properties in the HOA. It's just not
on the deeds.
it's not prevalent. It's not,
Can we amend the HOA document so that it says that you can only, blah, blah, blah?
Why don't you
Yeah,
get in touch with Jimmy?
Probably outside of our scope of authority without, that's pretty proactive, which I love being proactive, but I think this might be a little bit of an overstep without having an active issue before us, such as a shared septic system. Now we are addressing the collective. I'm not sure this case brings us to the point where we'd have a firm ground to stand on to take that action. I simply don't know, but I think it would have to probably go through at least a town council consult or Jim consult to see what his previous experiences have been.
Why don't you get in touch with Jimmy first, and then we can make sure what he says, then he can get the attorney. Don't get the attorney first, then trying to get Jimmy.
I think Jimmy's given us his opinion on this already. I thought, Kevin, what do you think? And I think we need to go get town council's opinion.
yeah, I mean, I'm fine to just email the lawyer and ask him if that can be done. I mean, what did we decided the room count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if the 2 walls aren't there, could it be 7 rooms?
I thought we counted titles of rooms. I thought that's what we did. We said family room, dining room, living room, office is on that first floor because we don't include kitchen, right? Is that right?
Well, you do.
Oh, you include the kitchen? Okay, so that's 5. And then you've got 4 rooms upstairs. That's 9.
Right.
So a 3-bedroom.
Trying to figure out a way to make it work.
I know. I understand.
I know, but that's the way we've always done it. It's not my favorite. I've thought that at some point in the future we do need to talk about kind of how this is counted and calculated, especially since we've told people in a basement, well, you can have 2 different rooms as long as there's no wall, which is kind of a different application of the rules. But we've been very consistent in, even if it's an open space, a family room, a living room, or a family room, and a dining room, and a kitchen are 3 rooms. It's how it's been done.
Right. And the office definitely is a room there. So it's like 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3. And then the office is 4. We say we count the kitchen. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 5 on the first floor. And then there's 4 upstairs. So that's 9. And what is it? It's, I forget the rule of math. What's the maths for this? It's you take the bedrooms, divide it by the total number of rooms.
Take the total number of rooms divided by 2 and round down.
Okay, so 9 divided by 2 is 4, rounded down. So you're already over.
The shared septic capacity by
Right,
a room. So this would be adding a
Right.
second room above the shared capacity.
right,
Using our standard formula.
right.
So in my opinion, I'm happy to push it. I'm happy to talk to town council and see if we can do something across the board on all the deeds at Cooper Farm. So it's prevalent, it's explicit. These are 3-bedroom homes. There's 22-bedroom homes. Just to make sure
Safe.
we're covered on it.
And this thing should have had this restriction when it was made years
That's
ago.
right. That's right. That's why I said things were missed. I don't want to pin it on people that aren't here anymore.
Yep. No,
Um,
agreed.
I just know that our role, it's very important that we stay consistent
Yep.
and that we don't.
And then I would also like to get the data from the building department on all the homes that are in here as far as which ones already have a finished basement. That's data I think we need, because if we already have homes in this area, and I know either Nicole or Dan previously said, I think it was Nicole in the previous one, said that there are already homes that had finished basements from the developer. And I want to find out because
Yeah, I spoke to the builder of their home. He
Oh, okay.
built 6 homes there and he finished 4 of the basements.
well, then single room or multiple rooms? Just out
I
of
don't-
curiosity.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. That should never.
Dan, you also you looked back at the permits back to March of 2020, right? And you found 8 that had been filed.
Yeah, they were starting March of 2020. There's eight homes. One home actually had 2 separate permits approved for 2 different rooms in the basement. Which the reason we looked at that was because of the precedent talk.
Mhm.
And even not that it matters, but talking with the other owners, a lot of them said we did the same thing, and there was none of this process that we're going through. So they were curious as to why, but it seemed, as far as I know, there were a bunch with basements as it was built, and then these 8 or 9 that were added since.
After the fact. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was only able to find 3 deed restrictions. Not that that really matters, but I don't know if they're elsewhere.
The problem here is that, yeah, when those things were done, nobody was either somebody wasn't paying attention or somebody let it slide. And both of those things are not good. But here we are now, and we don't want to set a precedent, but we also want to help you. So, I hate to say it, but I think we need to continue this and talk to town council and really see what we can do here.
As a board, I would feel much better about the conversation if we did our research and had a full list of all of the units on the property, what exists, whether it be we've known about basements or not through permitting, deed restrictions. I kind of want to see the summary of the whole plan. And if you need help putting that together or something, I can help. But I would much rather see that so that we can understand what the full scope of the problem is. Separately from that, yes, I think we need to pursue some way of, can we retroactively add deed restrictions to properties that we know are not built to the rules and codes that we usually apply? I'm not sure.
I would address and undo all of the incredible overreach of this administration and your executive.
And the other problem, I'm just doing some quick math here. So never mind. So the 55 and overs are only required to have 110 gallons per day because they're 55 and over. So they don't need 220 as 2 bedrooms. They just need 110. So we have 20 times 110 plus 21. 30. That's 9130. So I think this system, and I'm thinking out loud, but I think this system was built for like 9,990 gallons per day. 10 gallons underneath the threshold where you would need to bring the state in and build a wastewater treatment plant. For my
Right.
math, adding up 21 homes at 330 gallons a day and 20 2-bedroom homes for 55 and over, which are 110 gallons a day, that comes to 9,130. So there's like 860 gallons of extra flow that aren't being used. So if we can confirm those numbers and allot that extra flowage to this home and potentially other homes that already have finished basements or over the room count, maybe that's a way to sort of clean up the mess after the fact. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I would dig into that and I would make the case that it's possible. I don't know.
Well, so that's, you basically have, if you've got 9,990, you've used 9,100. Let's just use easy math,
Yeah.
right? That means you
Yeah.
got 890 left. That means you basically can allocate an extra room to 8 houses.
Right.
Right. And are they the 9th house? I don't know.
I don't know.
And I think that's what we need to do. I think you're right. I think, or Matt's right. I think we need to do a continuation on this. I think we need to get our ducks in a row as far as all the building permit, what's been built, who's done what to whom. If Dan would be kind enough to forward that email, the collection of deeds that he's already researched and gotten that information to Brenda, that would be wonderful. So we don't have to redo that information and we can redo that research. That would be wonderful, Dan, if you're willing to do that. And then we really need to have a good discussion and have our data in front of us the next time.
So Nicole and Dan, we're working on this. I think we're doing our best to come to a reasonable solution so you guys can move forward and finish your basement and do it the way you want it. But I'd like to make a motion to continue to our next
You
meeting.
have an audience hand.
Oh. Please state your name and address.
The person needs to unmute.
Can you unmute yourself, please?
I can't hear you.
T. Galvin, can you unmute yourself, please? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you state your name and address, please?
Tim Galvin, 103 King Street, Groveland, Mass.
Groveland, okay.
I'm the contractor.
Hi, Tim.
How you doing?
Good.
So I've been listening to all this and I kind of see where you guys are coming from. I have many issues, but I'm just not even going to go there because it's just too long, and because you're basically penalizing them for something they haven't done and something that the previous whoever, inspectors, Board of Health members, did. So here we are, and they're willing to get a deed restriction. I've done a ton of basements in a ton of towns, and the room count is never an issue if you get a deed restriction. Obviously, when you look at the plan for the drawing, it's wide open. There's no bathroom. Who in their right mind would ever say, well, that's going to be a bedroom? I mean, the other issue I have is the office on the first floor. If you go by the building code, it doesn't meet every requirement to be considered a habitable room because it's not 7 feet in all directions.
Oh, it's over
It's only an inch under, but that's the code.
70 square feet.
70 square feet is one of the requirements. It also has to be 7 feet in all directions, and it's not. From front to back, it's under 7 feet. So I'm not going to get bottled up in minutia, but by code, by the building code, and if you go in that room, you can understand why they have that code, because it's really, to me, it looks like a closet.
Yeah, I don't know if Title V calls out 7 feet wide, but it does call out 70 square feet.
Okay, well, I'm just going by, you guys are bringing up room count, and that's all I'm going by is a room count. And a room count, it has to be, you don't count closets because it's not a habitable room.
Right.
And here we are with a quote unquote office that is not 7 both ways. So I don't know.
Yeah, we get it. The problem is not with this. It's not, you're right. These folks are trying to do things the right way and get a permit and go through the proper channels to do so. And through this process, there's been discovery, and we're trying to get a handle on it.
Okay, but Jim, what's your name? Your Jim?
No, I'm Kevin.
Kevin. What I understand about, putting a deed restriction on every property, but why can't that just be done if someone tries to pull a permit to finish a basement? I don't understand what's the difference. If they don't finish their basement, why do they have to have a deed restriction now? Because it wasn't done right in the past?
Because it's over the room count.
Okay, but you guys that's never gonna happen legally.
Well, we'll let our town attorney figure that out.
All right, well,
Thank
I
you.
get it, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
still,
we're trying to work with these guys and you.
you're penalizing them for something they haven't done, and they're trying to do the right thing, and it's just,
Yeah,
it all,
I think we are too, and we wouldn't have been talking about it this long if we weren't trying to do the
Yeah.
right thing. So,
all right. Thank you much.
So I'll make a motion to continue till our next meeting.
Can hear.
Oh, second.
A roll call vote, Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes yes.
Gino Fratelloni. Gino, Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Now, Wason, yes.
Gino Fratelloni. Gino, can you hear me? No. Kevin Baker votes yes. Sorry, guys. We'll see you at the next meeting, and hopefully we can have a positive response for you. We need to talk to the powers that be here and see what we can do to make this right.
Are there any takeaways that we need to, in preparation for the next meeting, or just get on the agenda again?
I don't think so. Could you just send Brenda your contact information, and then why don't we talk on the phone after I have a chance to talk with town council prior to the next meeting, and we'll strategize a way to make this right. We're just trying not to set precedent. We want to go by the book and do the right thing for everybody.
Okay, we'll send her that along with the information that Dan had pulled.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
All right, we'll move on to our other 710, the discussion and adoption of Littleton food truck regulations. The Littleton Board of Health will discuss adopting local food truck regulations. Town Council, Alex has sent over some generic draft documents. I don't know if, hopefully everybody had a chance to read them. In generally, besides all the blank spots, I'd like to get the comments from the board on these docs, and then send over the documents to the select board for them to take a look at, because they need to adopt these at the same time, I believe. They're mentioned here. They're really in charge of, they permit food trucks, but there's also a Board of Health permit involved, to my knowledge.
What the hell is wrong with this thing here?
So we need to work together with the select board to bring these things to fruition.
So really, it looks like it runs in parallel.
It does.
That the select board is the licensing authority, basically allows them to do business. The Board of Health and the Health Department provides the permit for them to have food, move food, serve food, sanitation, those pieces. So prior to being licensed as a business, for easiest language, they need to show to the Board of Health that they are operating within food establishment requirements, temperature control, sanitation, water, all that great stuff. So before they can apply to the select board, for licensure, they need to go through Board of Health for permitting. So reading through the draft here, what I'm reading through this is not a permitting process set of regulations. This is a licensing process set of regulations. So really this piece is up to the select board of how they want to handle it from their perspective. Because no matter what we do what we do, they do what they do. They're looking at it as a business. We are looking at it as a food service establishment. So none of the pieces here really address the Board of Health regulations or the DPH regulations around sanitation, water, that great stuff. This really is a business piece. Do your people have queries through the police department, and do you have a location that's approved by the police department, and have you paid your fees? Those kind of pieces. Where are you going to be located, and is it too close to another business and it's going to impact them? This had nothing in here really has any language referring to public health, other than the levels of permitting required for prepared food versus temperature sensitive food or ice cream. So we need to identify, I think, what our regulations are going to look like, whether we simply take the model regulations from Mass Associated Boards of Health, or from just use the DPH, regulations and simply reference them as our standard for permitting. But this isn't really addressing a Board of Health regulation. This, to me, while it's talking about licensing and permitting process, it doesn't actually look at what the regulations are to be considered permitted by the Board of Health. You need to be inspected every 6 months. Whatever those things are, none of those are listed here. So, I mean, certainly I think we need to look at licensing and permitting, but the document that's shared here does not address, this is not a Board of Health document. This is a select board document.
Select board doc, yeah.
That's the way I read it. That this is a standard operating procedure for how do I become a licensed operator of a food truck in Littleton. This doesn't go how many liters of water, that kind of stuff that I need to have on hand.
I was going to say, Dan, the second document skims the surface of mobile units garaged outside of town must be first letters for blah, blah, blah. Mobile vendor must submit plans and specifications, mobile unit, including menu, layout, equipment information, anticipated volumes of food to be stored and prepared. You're correct. It talks about hand washing, allergen awareness, and then food safety. So it skims the surface. It's like skipping a rock across the top of everything, but it doesn't go into, I don't believe, enough detail. I would be really interested to see what the Massachusetts Boards of Health has listed for their mobile food vendors. I would think that would be a good model to have. I'm also concerned about what Jim has done in the past, and not concerned that something's wrong with it. Concerned that we need to be at least at the level he was at before, right? We need to make sure that we're at that same level. And then the other thing that I have is I don't want it to become a burden so that people don't come to town and sell their food and, trucks and stuff like that. So if you get it in one town like Westford, are the Westford things similar to the ones in Littleton? And is there some reciprocity if they already have a license in Westford and it's similar enough, can they get a license in Littleton? Do you see what I'm getting at? It's kind of like, a national nursing license, something like that.
I brought that up last time because I was hoping that Neshoba might have a general one, and I thought Jim said yes, they do get covered by the large group, but that doesn't include all of our neighbors even, right? And I would like to see if there's something that we could do that says, provided we're following permitting rules A through D, we keep up to date and we know that we potentially could we recognize a permit from another town because we look at their permitting process too and we agree that it checks all of our boxes. If we make ours too specific, too stringent, that we would lose that flexibility. So I agree, if we can come up with something that's pretty generic, then maybe we don't have to require as many steps for people. They're going to have to be licensed in every town no matter what, because those are the rules. But perhaps the permitting, we could say, we recognize the permit from that other location. Even though the document that Jim sent out, which was after our last meeting, that was mobile food establishment Q&A from Mass Department of Public Health, they specifically say, is a local permit required for each MFE? And the answer is yes, each MFE must have a separate permit from the local Board of Health for each mobile facility and from each municipality where the MFE intends to operate, period. But that said, if we potentially, at least we could smooth the process out. If we say, oh, you've got one in Westford, great, automatic rubber stamp for us because we know how their process works.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It'll really streamline things. We can do that.
My only concern is inspections, that we have been inconsistent with even our fixed operator inspections. That as far as theoretically every retail food establishment is supposed to be inspected every 6 months. And I don't believe we have been meeting that expectation. I could be wrong, but we could double check with Jim. But I know certainly as we've looked in the past, we're not always consistent with that. So if we have a vendor who comes into town occasionally, how do we make sure that they've been inspected? Oh, you're checked off in Westford, you're great. But Westford may say, oh, you checked off in Littleton, you're great. And now they go 6 months, a year, 2 years and never actually be inspected because everybody thinks everybody else is checking, is done their scheduled inspections. It's awkward. It's part of the nature of, having a mobile establishment of how do you maintain that? And that's something the state has been great about. They're good for their home location needs to be inspected by their local Board of Health. So all these places are in fact supposed to move. They're not supposed to be parked in a parking lot for 5, 10, 15 years without ever moving. They're supposed to be leaving that spot, going back to their home base to be cleaned, to be deep cleaned, to be sanitized, all that great stuff. And that facility, that location needs to be inspected and approved by the local Board of Health. But the mobile piece, I'm just not quite sure. There's not a great process, it looks like, for ensuring adequate inspections. And certainly for someone who is busy and covering a big area, it would be onerous to have 20 or 30 or 40 boards of health inspecting their establishment every 6 months. That's all they'd ever do, would be inspected. They would never actually be in business. They'd be getting inspected every day. That's not saying that it doesn't need to happen because it might be challenging. I'm just not sure the best way, but it's certainly the potential for cross-contamination, temperature control, those things are probably at a higher likelihood in a less controlled environment of a mobile food establishment than it would be in a fixed establishment. And we certainly are aware that some of our fixed establishments, not here in our community necessarily, but within our area, sometimes have challenges maintaining all those pieces to code. So I think certainly the state has a set of regulations for mobile food. It's which one? 105 CMR 590 is the entire code, and it references the food code as well. So, I mean, there is a set of expectations. We can certainly add to that if we wanted to. That would certainly make it more challenging for folks moving across borders to try to be to the same standard. But there is a baseline set that they are supposed to be following. And as a Board of Health and a health department, these are the standards that when we would inspect and approve, we would expect them to be meeting. Mm-hmm. If we were to inspect them, we would expect them to be meeting these expectations. The document that was shared really just says they attest that they're going to follow these rules. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, that seems a little bit light. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm going to follow all the rules. Very few people are going to say, no, I'm not going to follow those rules if they're applying for a permit. or simply may not be aware of all the rules. And that's, that's part of our piece of that. Of course, we expect everybody, we provide education, and of course we do our inspections to make sure that, equipment works appropriately, things are functioning the way they're not designed to, or that there's not an education gap where someone believes they're doing the right thing and simply weren't aware. Good faith, but they were incorrect in their assumptions of how it should work. That process, I think, needs to be in our documents and our process and our permitting of beyond just an attestation that they'll comply with the requirements, what our expectations is for inspections and how that will happen. And I think that's going to be a matter of talking with Jim for his experience and identifying us among ourselves as we'll be establishing our own set of expectations and requirements, hopefully, who knows when, in the near future, of what the, Town of Littleton Public Health Department is going to look like and what our expectations are going to be as a department.
Understood. So that's 105 CMR 590 for Massachusetts. Let me speak with town council. Let me talk to the MAHB, Mass Association of Health Boards. I don't see any templates on their website specific to mobile food trucks.
Yeah, no, I glanced as well, and I didn't see anything. They often have model regulations, either their own model or from others that they think are really good to share. And I didn't see anything there as well, although they may have something that's just not on the website yet.
Yeah, I can reach
But
out.
we certainly have the state regs, which are, as templates we're going to get, because that's we can't change that. We can add, we can't take away from the state regs.
So why don't I'll circulate that document to the board. I'll speak with town council, speak with Jim and Bridget, the food inspector, and maybe we'll use that as sort of a template to go off of, just so we all have the understanding and we can see what is required. And then we can call that out specifically, even if it is a carbon copy, it doesn't hurt to have to read it twice as a vendor to know what rules and regs you need to abide by, I guess.
If I may ask also, kind of unrelated, but Dan brought it up, on inspections and the status of our inspections in the town of Littleton. I have concern that we as a board potentially don't have great insight into the status of that. And I think that we deserve a report from Neshoba. Frankly, whether there was Neshoba or our own internal Department of Health, I feel like we should have at least twice a year a report on just the status of things like that. Because I would like to see how many establishments do we have, how many have been done in the last 6 months, how many of them are on pace, how many problems were there, just a summary at least to say we know we're in good shape or not. Because it was brought up at last meeting as well, like the food trucks. Like, well, there's that one, and then there's that other one maybe, and
yeah, why don't let me get Bridget on our next meeting, and I'll have to bring
if
with
that's
her.
too soon, if it's going to take some time to compile that for us, I understand, but can we
it shouldn't
figure out
really, I mean,
when
it should
they
all
can
be there, right? It should just be like,
well,
there.
from
on
prior
a
history,
clipboard.
I believe they're all just paper records and they might not have them easily compilable.
I mean, she should be able to put that together for us.
Love it.
And I do know we've asked for this a few times in the past,
We have, but I think we haven't
and
asked
we've never
Bridget.
gotten
And
but we've asked Jim as the agent in charge, and
I
that's
know.
he's certainly representing the board. If we make a request, and we have, well, we might not have put it in writing. We've made a formal request on behalf of the board to him saying a list of everybody, last time they were inspected, a monthly, every 3 months, something list of who has been inspected in the town in the last, whatever our time frame is. Just again, that a status update.
Mhm.
We visited these places. We had this issue. We got a complaint because we got a question from, and here's how we dealt with it. And here's our resolution, or there wasn't a resolution. Certainly we've been requesting that. I'll be honest, since I joined the board, that was one of the first things I requested when we first joined the board almost 2 years ago now. And we've not gotten an adequate response. I'll be honest. The only reason I know that we have some in the past, we've had facilities not be inspected in the timeline that the state requires is because I made a Freedom of Information request through the town clerk's office to Neshoba boards for all the records from the last X number of months, and got paper printouts of their inspection reports and their last dates and future dates. The only reason I even had an idea that we were not as consistent as we probably should be.
Mhm.
But we've requested it. We haven't in the past. So I would love to, obviously, I'll back Matt up 100% that that's pretty basic. You know, we realize that they are underfunded, understaffed, but having a status report of what they have done on our behalf in our community is pretty basic.
Mhm.
We visited your community 23 times for these issues. We we approved 5 Title V's. We did these many inspections, a complaint about a housing issue, whatever it is, or nope, we had nothing in your town for the last month. No inspections, no requests, no nothing. All is well. Also valuable.
Mhm.
But we just don't even have that information. If a complaint comes in, it is completely possible for us never to be aware that a complaint was in. He issued a letter. It was resolved,
The call came.
and we would never ever know that it ever happened in our community. The only time it would get to us is if somebody appealed an order, challenged an order, or the complainant didn't feel like they got their thing heard and they brought it to us directly. It's just how it is.
Yeah,
But that's
I understand.
unfortunate.
I'll make a request. I'll call Bridget. I'll have her on our next meeting, and we will start the process of getting some sort of consistency with the status update, at least, you know, on an annual basis, and hopefully more frequent than that. That sound like a plan? All right. We have a discussion we have to have on the plastic bag ban that passed at town meeting. Dan, you did put this in front of us a few weeks ago, and I got a call from the town administrator that we should take a look at this before it goes to get stamped and filed with the state, and discuss anything we would like to include in this in regards to like fines, enforcement, and things like that, since we're being charged with that. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on it. I can open up the conversation with, you know, since the Board of Health is charged with enforcing this, and we all know how enforcement works, that I don't think this goes into effect until August 2023? Did I hear?
August 1st.
August 1st.
2023.
So I mean, that's plenty of time for people to get set up. Hopefully there's some education happening. But as far as enforcement goes, I feel like, you know, first offense, like warning, second offense, you know, like $500, like third offense, $1,000. Why are we still talking about this? But maybe that's just me.
Well, on the bylaw as written, it's not a Board of Health bylaw, it's a town bylaw as opposed to a Board of Health regulation, which carries the same weight as a bylaw, just different approach. Under 139.4, it's got financial penalties. It's got a warning, a 25, a 50, 100 for subsequent. So that's already in the bylaw. So and I'm not sure, we can certainly set regulations for how inspections occur, how enforcement can go, what the process is for appeal. I don't think there was an appeal process, but those pieces as Board of Health as our enforcement authority, but it's already got.
I think we have the ability to adjust that and vote on it and make it so before it goes into effect. That's what he told me to do.
Okay.
He asked nicely.
So this language is a draft per se, then, that they haven't voted to approve this language right now here, Article 16.
I mean,
This is passed. This
this
is town
passed.
bylaw.
Yep, it's town bylaw, and I believe the Board of Health, as the enforcement agency, has the ability to regulate that enforcement.
But then that would mean we would have to have a public hearing in order to modify the
Yep.
general bylaw, chapter 139, section 4.
Yeah, I mean, if it has to be
Right.
done.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of in line with you. It seems like $25 seems kind of silly. If the monumental impact of doing this ban is that good, then $25 seems a little silly. I guess every day that they do it, it racks up, and it doesn't describe offenses over a timeline. So it sounds to me like it's never ending. So even if your last offense was 3 years ago, which I assume you wouldn't magically bring back plastic bags, but there's no end to it, so you would just be in subsequent offenses. And the other piece, I guess, is I wasn't sure about is the enforcement is truly would just be looking at, does a retailer give a plastic bag to a customer? Which means they have the bags there and they're stocking them, because obviously a customer can bring in their bag and reuse it because they got their bag at Target in Leominster. And so the enforcement it sounds to me like is purely just, you cannot have bags in your store that you then give to customers. Yeah.
I believe so.
And there's even something in 139-6 which says the Board of Health may exempt a real estate establishment, blah, blah, blah. A real estate establishment requires additional time in order to draw down an existing inventory of thin film, single-use checkout plastic bags. So we can extend the implementation per store by 6 months, but they have to come to us and ask for permission.
And if they ordered them in mid-July, then
Right.
So if the board has the appetite to actually give this thing some teeth, then, we can do that. Or if you just want to let it go, we can do that too.
I'd like to give it more teeth, and
I
I
think
don't.
it needs it. I mean, it's not a bit, no.
I don't care about people bringing in their own bags. I don't care.
No, and I don't think, I think that the stores are going to be fine with implementing this, and I don't foresee any enforcement that's actually going to have to happen, but we just know how it goes, and it should just be something that's like real, So this is a discussion. We can table it and people can bring their thoughts back. But I mean, I put my 2 cents in. I think that, like a second offense of 500 and a third offense of 1,000. Whatever that may be, something more substantial than $25 and $50.
so I may still be a little behind on this, but it's calling out single-use plastic bags such as you use for produce and for meat as well.
It's saying that that's exempt. Those are exempt.
Oh, it's an exception. Sorry. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
To say.
So dry cleaning, newspapers, produce, meat, bulk foods, wet items, perishables. So it's literally just the bags that you use at checkout.
Yeah, and we may adopt and amend rules and regulations to effectuate the purpose of this bylaw. So I think that's what we're kind of charged with.
I would be cool with making the fine stiffer. I would also be cool with just letting this get into play and let it go, because it might just be a non-issue for us forever in a year.
We can do that too. We could put it on the agenda for August 15th, 2023 and see where we're at, or however you want to do it.
I'm kind of torn right now I really want the teeth because this is silly, but I also like the idea of let's see what it let's see what feedback or whatever we get from that, and take a walkabout on the 23rd or the 24th of August and see what people are doing on the 24th of August, and see what happens, see what it looks like.
I would rather look on the 15th of July. This is, whatever the date is finalized, a bit of a poll of the business, be like, are you guys okay? Is everything set? And if they all come back as we're in trouble, then I think it warrants some conversation. If they all come back as flippant, maybe it means we have to make the fine stiffer. If they all say they're in good shape, then we've all done a good job.
What about contacting the Littleton business? What is it? The Better Business Bureau or the whatever?
The Business Association?
Yeah. So supposedly they have an ear to the ground to everybody.
Yeah, we can see if Mr. Kennedy has an opinion and the ability to reach folks. I think he does. So Dan, I just wanted to ask you before we move on. I mean, you had the closest relationship with this document probably than any of us here on the meeting, just because I think you knew some of the folks that were putting this together. Any questions? Any comments? How would you like to see this? How would you like to see the Board of Health work with this document?
So for those who don't know, this actually came out of the high school, came out of students at the high school who recognized that a number of other communities have done this to address waste and went, why can't we do it here? This is classic civics 101 of, folks too young to vote in their community, identifying a need and making something happen. So, so from that piece, it was great. It was an abject lesson in how the system is supposed to work. You bring it forward, you make it happen, you get signatures, and it gets through town meeting. It was awesome. It's pretty basic. It's pretty straightforward. Out of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, I think we are number 148 with this regulation. So we are certainly not cutting edge on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So they certainly were able to look at a lot of other folks who put this together. It's pretty straightforward. So you can still wrap your chicken. Your chicken is not going to be mixing up with your bananas in your bag. It's still wrapped. It's the blowaway ones that we always see blowing down the street, in the parking lot, or when the recycle comes and the trash comes and they go flying. I agree that that's the penalties written in there for failure to comply. I think actually I'd have to look back. That is pretty consistent with most of our fees or penalties for it, which I think is where they got the numbers. They basically went, what is our current for everything else? I believe that's where they got their numbers for this. I agree that's not a big number for a lot of places, but for plenty of small places, $25 is, if I'm a small convenience store, $25 a day, up to $100 a day, because every day is a new violation. It's going to change behavior pretty quickly. For someplace much larger, truthfully, I'll find that I bet they're actually in compliance relatively quickly, even with the size of their inventory. They've got 9 months to come into compliance. They know their volumes down to the minute. I bet they could, right up to July 31st, they would run out of their last plastic bag at closing on July 31st, because that's how precise they have their inventory, most of these places, and not really be a penalty. If someone's out of compliance, again, on day 4 of being out of compliance at $100 a day, I bet even that point, they're going to be in compliance relatively quickly.
Okay.
So, it's pretty straightforward. Certainly we can put in rules and regs. I'm not quite sure what we need to really look at it other than making it from a operating procedure kind of perspective for adding it as a line item on the inspection form.
Inspections. Yeah.
I'm really looking at what we really to do. I'm not sure at the moment. Nothing comes for rules and regs come to mind other than kind of the operating procedure kind of piece of, okay, someone complains, how do we respond? And for inspections, it's added as a line item for inspections for for this, sorry, I'm as I'm going through it, I'm thinking more and more. We generally only inspect food service establishments or retail food, or even or stores. We don't necessarily be inspecting. Trying to think off the top of my head,
Aubuchon.
a garden store or Aubuchon. Exactly. Thank you. Because, I mean, they sell candy bars and stuff. Theoretically, I think we're supposed to look at them once a year. I think theoretically, because they are selling food and sodas, I think we are supposed to see it once a year. But that's the perfect example. Aubuchon, or or someplace, a sporting goods store or a liquor store, someplace that falls outside of standard Board of Health inspections. That we would have to just come up with it would be someone lets us know, and then we respond and investigate like we would for anything else. But I think the retail food establishments are going to probably be our most likely places to be using this type of bag. We make it a line item on our inspection.
I like that. Yep, that's good.
But,
yeah, and then I also like Matt Wason's comment about going around in July and maybe having the inspector make a note or hand out some educational materials on that.
I just did a quick check. Both Westford and Acton have a first warning, second $50, third and subsequent 100.
Okay.
It takes out one level of it. Maybe that'd be a reasonable thing. Just knock out the $25.
Mm-hmm.
That way we're saying it just like the neighbors.
Yeah.
Groton doesn't have one?
I hadn't checked Groton's yet, Mr. Davis.
I looked actually, I'm sorry, I looked at Groton and I couldn't find one for Groton, but I know they have one. So, because the Shaw's hands out paper bags.
All right. Well, we'll definitely make a point to mention to Bridget when we speak to her that, we'd like this to be a line item on the inspections that she does conduct, and we'll get our house in order in
baby.
in the inspection world. Administrative matters, meeting minutes, we did new local SDS regs. We're just waiting for the signature page to be sent over to Brenda, and then Diane Croy will stamp it and we'll get that moving. There was a message regarding correspondence from DPH.
Sorry, Kevin, before you go past the SDS, I'm out of touch with it. What was the date we were expecting all that to start?
The plastic bag ban?
No, the waste regulations.
As soon as it gets published in the paper,
Okay.
I believe is the I think so.
Yeah.
Because what we passed had some dates in it and timelines, did it not? Do we have to adjust that?
That's a good question.
What were the dates?
That's what I can't remember.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was the first of the year or whatnot, but I'm worried that has it gone long enough that we have to revisit that and potentially change the timeline?
Oh, you're talking about the trash hauler regulations?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was mentioning the sewage disposal system regulations. Yeah, I
Oh,
spoke to
sorry.
Jim. We're still good for the January 1st implementation on that. And we're getting, Jim's going over those regs and going through the same process he did with the sewage disposal regulation we passed, so he can get that stamped and in front of Diane Crory, put in the paper and sent out to the vendors with the application that they can fill out for the permit, which will be a January 1st start. However, they can fill it out early. The application fee, the permit fee won't be due until January 1st.
And I couldn't remember. I thought our goal in discussion was to give them 90 days to fill out the 60 or 90, something along like that. And I'm saying if it doesn't get published now until Thanksgiving time, then they only really have 30 days. And are we okay with that, or do we need?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I just can't push things out. We've had so much
I agree.
pile up on our desks because of various reasons, and we just need to keep moving forward and not delay any further.
I support that.
Okay. So we had some correspondence from DPH about preventing illness and staying healthy this season. And I did see that actually, the schools sent it out, and I think EHS may have sent it out and put it out there for public consumption. So I was happy about that. Did anyone else have any correspondence? No. Any board member updates, comments for discussion? No. I had one comment, and that was we are victims of unfortunate timing in that our next meeting is scheduled to be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which I'm unable to make. And our second meeting in December is scheduled to be on the 28th, between the holidays there, and I'll be unable to make that. And I just wanted to see what the appetite of the board was to have our next meeting December 7th and have that be, oh, actually, I'm sorry, we would do December 14th and have that be our only meeting, our last meeting. of
November.
2022.
November has 5 Wednesdays. Should we do November 30th plus December 14th?
I'm open to that.
That's 2 weeks apart still.
Yep.
I'm liking that.
Okay.
I have no problem with the 30th.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do November 30th and December 14th. And then we'll reconvene for January 11th in 2023. Sound good to everybody? Brenda, you got that?
Yes.
And just cancel
All
and
right,
cancel December 28th.
correct.
So we have November 30th, December 14th, and reconvene on January 11th.
January 11 and then 25, and then
Right.
the second and fourth Wednesdays moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a bunch of work to do in between meetings, and that'll give us some time to get some things done. So hopefully our meetings will be very productive, and we'll be able to cross some more things off the list. Gino, can you hear us? We're ready. We're ready.
I can hear you, but I have a problem with my phone. Can
Well,
you hear me?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm
We're-
trying to get my
We're ready for a motion to
face there.
adjourn.
You blocked me.
We're ready for a motion to adjourn.
There's something wrong with my phone. I got a call and all of a sudden the volume went off. So I'm putting the phone in my ear. I can hear very little bit you guys talking.
Well, we're ready for the
Oh,
motion to adjourn. from
Only
you or
happened to
anyone.
the living.
Somebody
So it's
did.
gonna be what, November?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that. Roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, good night, guys.
See you later.
Thanks, everybody.